want to talk to you about this Seattle trip, because as you see, you say, well, this doesn't have anything to do with next year, because next year we're not going to Seattle, we're going to Livingston, Montana next year to help with the church plant that we're helping there. But I anticipate we will go back to Seattle in the future. It was a very different trip. We spent most of the mornings walking. Matter of fact, we got the numbers. We walked in the 3 or 4 days that we did surveys. Now, some of y'all are going to think I'm making this up. We walked about 46 miles in those days. That's right. This fat preacher walked every one of them. That's exactly right. That's not a composite total. That's individual.
You're telling me you walked 46 miles?
Fat with my hand up, as in Wendy Bagwell used to say.
Tell what the terrain is like.
Yeah, and it's steep hills, and I'm not going to say I did it happily all the time, but we did it, and it was challenging, physical, but beyond the physical challenge, it was tough emotionally, because we got a lot of doors slammed in our face. We got a lot of people who did not appreciate it. Now, there were some very kind people too. We had some, but I guess 3 days we did that. Of the 3 days we did it, and I don't know, 150, 200, 250 houses. We probably had, I'll let them tell their experience. I probably had, out of 200 houses, if I knocked on that many doors, I'm sure we did, I probably had 6 or 7 genuine conversations out of all that. Now, that doesn't mean everybody slammed the door in their face. And it was very different. You know, when we go somewhere like the Dominican Republic, you kind of know what the end result is. You know at the end of the day, we want to build these houses and people have a place to live. But as anybody that'll tell you, Ms. Carol, anybody who's been on a mission trip can tell you, the number one thing you have to be is flexible, because it never happens the way you think it was going to happen. Whatever you have scheduled, the week we were in Seattle, we had all kinds of things scheduled that the weather just wouldn't let us do, or certain permits didn't come through for the block party thing they were going to have. So you have to be flexible, and as Aaron Carpenter, who's the lead pastor there, you know he's been here to speak, as Aaron said, you have to just resign yourself to the fact, reconcile yourself to the fact that the guy that controls the weather's in charge of this anyway. And if he wants us to do that, he'll make a way. If not, he'll like it. So we ended up doing a lot of knocking on doors. They are, you know, to see what they're doing in Seattle and what we're helping them to do. They couldn't do it without support from us and other people. But what they're doing there is so different from Red Lodge, Montana. Red Lodge, Montana is a town of 7,000 people. And it's mainly a resort town. It swells in the resort months. Seattle, the Seattle-Tacoma area, hundreds of thousands. And their goal is, before they launch their service, and I'm going to actually go back out there in the middle of September to be there for the first service and help them with that, and I'm thrilled about that. But their goal, before they get to that first service, their goal, and this is what the North American Mission Board, you know, they're NAMB, they're North American Mission Board church plant. This is what the goal that the NAM set for, is for them to get in 5,000 homes before they have their first service. So we were able to help them significantly get toward that number. And, you know, I'm anxious to see when I go back in September for that first service, if any of the people we talked to are there that day or not, or even the person when I went to pick up our rental car. The Lord just spoke to me, and you don't hear me say that often, but I'm telling you, I was standing at that rental car, and the Lord said to my spirit, you need to talk to this lady here about that church. And I thought, you know, I just got here myself, you know, and she was having a hard enough time understanding my slight accent as I was talking to her there. And so I said, the Lord would leave me alone. So I said, ma'am, while we're waiting on that paperwork stuff, I said, you have a church that you go to? She just brightened up. She said, well, no. And she talked about how they were kind of new to that area, and she was looking for a church. So I was able to give her the address. She knew exactly where the place was that they were meeting. She was so excited about that. Now, I can tell you the hours I spent trying to find a rental car place, and could not find a car to rent at the airport. Had to go to an off the beaten path place to get it. I know why now. God had a lady there that I needed to invite to church. That week was filled with Holy Spirit arranged encounters. Let me answer a couple of questions. I'm not going to get back up here after Zach and then we started. Regarding this, some people asked this morning, what are the ages that you recommend for these trips? Let me address that. For the Mission Lab trip, you got to have been 7th grade. It's got to be 7th grade and up. Now, there are children there. If you have little children and you want to go and take your children, that's your business. There are people that do that. But the activities are not really geared toward the real little ones. As far as these other trips, if you're 16 or up, then you can go. Of course, if you're 16 or 17, you have to have a sign. If you're under 16, the only way I'm taking under 16 is if their parent goes or somebody that their parent has designated as responsible for them. So, I'm not going to take under 16 because I know that I'm too busy to be responsible for exactly what they're doing all that time. And I don't want to take somebody's child that I'm supposed to be responsible for if I can't do that. So it's no reflection on your children. Well, maybe a few of them. No, it's not really. There's no reflection on your children. It's just I'm not comfortable doing that. So your children would benefit from going. There are some children who would benefit greatly from going to the Dominican. I'm telling you, but you'll need to take them. I'm not telling you don't take them. I'm just saying I ain't taking them. You take them and y'all can go with us, and I'd be glad to have it. But there are no age limits on any of the trip, hard and fast. Just without a chaperone. You got to be at least 16 years old, or there's somebody's going, a mom, a grandparent, or a friend that the parents have designated who's responsible for that child. I'm trying to think of what else I was asked. There were 2 or 3 questions we got this morning. What will we be doing in Livingston? Well, that's a great question. There's no way I can answer that. They are just getting on the ground now. We will do exactly what we did in Seattle. Whatever we can do to help them get ready to open their church is what we'll do. When we've been to Red Lodge before, you've heard us tell the stories. We have cleaned carpets, and we have cleaned buildings, and we have done sports camps. Dee Dee and her family, Bruce and them, they worked at rodeos. And, whatever they need us to do in that. Robert even took one for the team. He got his, Robert Green, let me tell you how smart he is. They were working at a rodeo. He went to work at the rodeo in flip-flops. And that horse stomped his flip-flop foot and broke it. That's right. And they were riding. They weren't flying. He had to ride in a truck all the way from Montana with that broke foot. Of course, they had doped him up. He didn't know where he was. But bless his heart, he took one for the team. So we've done a lot of different things. What I told Aaron before we came to Seattle, what I've told Lee before we've gone to Red Lodge every time is, you don't need to entertain us. We're not coming here to be a burden on you. Don't worry about any of our expectation. Our only expectation is that when we leave here, you're closer to where you want to be than when we got here. So I can't tell you what we're going to do. I can tell you that he's counting on some of the teams to come to Livingston to do sport camps with the community, to build bridges in the community. He's counting on some to do some cleaning. They're starting in Seattle. They started a window washing ministry. I'm telling you, it's so hard to get these people to have conversations with you. And the 2 interns that are working with Aaron out there, they found that if they go from business to business and they volunteer to wash the windows of the business for free, that gives them an entryway, and then the people will have a conversation. You do whatever it takes to make a connection. So I encourage you to go. Livingston, Montana is a beautiful place. If you've never been there, it's breathtaking. It's about 45 minutes from the entrance to Yellowstone, and we certainly always take a day to see God's creation when we're there. I would encourage you to go, and you just ask me questions if you have any questions about that. But I want Dee Dee, Robert, and Jacob to come and share whatever they have to share about Seattle. I really had to think about that thing when we got home, because there wasn't a lot you could look at and say, here we, and I'll be honest with you, for a few days I thought, now Lord, was that really, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that He used us to help them. And you know, some people, the Bible says, some people sow, and some people water, and then some people get to reap the harvest. We might have been a waterer this time, but God gives the increase. We just got to be faithful to serve wherever He sends us. So that's what Livingston will be. The only other thing I will say, I put this on the little handout, but I want to say it because I don't want anybody to miss it. If you go to the Dominican, you have to have a passport. So if you decide to go on that trip, don't wait till a week or 2 before to try to get that. Because as long as you have plenty of time, it's not a hassle at all. But just know that if you go to the Dominican, you have to have a passport there. Dee Dee, you come and share whatever's on your heart about Seattle. And, Oh, goodness, Diane. Diane is worried me about them malaria pills, that's right. Malaria pills.
Well, first of all, I do appreciate prayers that we
Hey,
get.
Dee,
Mom,
use
it's
that
at
microphone.
night.
Use the microphone so we'll have you on the video up there.
What about it?
There you go.
So the first thing is thank you for all your prayers.
whatever success we have, we definitely know it's through prayers
Amen.
and the support of our church. But it was definitely different this year in Seattle than what we're used to when we go to Red Lodge. I think the biggest thing that I took away from it, the biggest thing God showed me, is there are people out there who think they don't need Jesus.
That's true.
This is not people who just don't know Jesus. These people will tell you, I don't need Jesus. So that was touching to me to know that we have people right here in our country, and probably right here even in our community, that think they don't need Jesus. So it was important that we got out, we knocked on these doors, we talked to these people, and we tried to share Jesus. With some we got to. But most important, we got to tell them about the church, where possibly they'll go there and hear what Aaron has to say, and they'll be able to find Jesus. Because we know they need him. They think they don't need him, but we know that they need him. So that was probably the biggest takeaway for me. And one of the other things Chris wanted to talk about is why you should go. I've been going on mission trips for about 6 years now, and I get something different out of every trip. I always, take or drag, whichever one you call it, my kids, because I think it's important for them to learn about doing for others. My kids are blessed that they have all that they need and most of what they want, and they've learned to see people who don't have that. They've learned to realize that everybody don't know Jesus and everybody don't love Jesus. And I think these mission trips are important for them. So, because Chris does want them to have a parent if they're under a certain age, I make sure I go, because mine have all been going since they were probably 7, 8, 9 years old. So pretty sure I've always went and taken them. So I think it's important that I go so my kids learn, because there are so many people out there that need. So I think it's important you go, not only to share the word like the Bible tells us, but I think it's also important we take our young people and show our young people what it's about to share Jesus with others. And then he asked to talk about something that we remember, a memory or whatever. He talked about how far and how much we walked. Well, 2 years ago I took a desk job, and walking is not something I do very often. So with that I will say, technology these days, our children don't do as much walking as we did as children either. So I have one who really doesn't care to walk. Well, Dalton walked and I walked. Every mile that Chris talked about, he walked. A lot of times there was a lot of frustration. We were very tired. And Dalton was to the point one day he gave up. He said, Mama, I am not walking. I don't care what you do to me. I can't do it anymore. So Chris would tell you he thought Dalton would not live past that moment. But I did take Dalton out and I talked to him. I said, son, we're here because God sent us here. And there are people out there who don't know Jesus, who don't want Jesus. I said, but God sent us here to do that. And I said, if he sent us, he'll give us the strength to walk every step and every mile we were supposed to walk. I said, so you're not going out there and you're not walking for these people. You're not walking for Aaron. You're walking for the Lord. And I said, so we're going to get out there. We're going to pray the whole time we're walking for ourselves. But we're also going to share Jesus with these people. And Chris will tell you, after I talked to Dalton, you could tell that the Lord spoke to him and he was a whole different child. He got out there with energy and was saying, let's go. Come on. He was ready to go. So the memory I have is how the Lord touched him through me. And he had a great time after that. The trip turned around. He survived and had a good time. So there was a lot out there. And like I say, take the opportunity to take your children, grandchildren, neighbors, nieces, nephews, anybody. It's a great time. And it's always a good feeling to come back knowing you've shared the Lord with somebody else.
Amen. That's a very interesting description of your conversation with Dalton, I think. I'll tell you, we were exhausted. We had it. Our nerves were all on edge, and Dalton had it, and Dee Dee had it. And Dee Dee said, excuse me for a moment, I think I'm going to have a conversation with Dalton. And I don't know what she said. I got a feeling it's a little more than what she said up here. But I'll say this, Dalton did his job. He came back with a renewed attitude, scared Jacob and Robert to death. Every time they start playing, I'd say, do you want me to let Dee Dee talk to you? No, I'm all right. So she made an impression on us. Dalton didn't want to get up here and talk, and that's fine. I'm not going to make anybody that's not comfortable doing that. But you talk to him after church. He'll be glad to share some of what he has done. Boys, y'all both got up this morning, so I'm not going to make you do a lot. Do y'all have anything y'all want to come and share about Seattle? We'd love for you to. Oh, come on. Come on.
All right, well, I'm not one for confrontation, and that's all of what we did up on that trip. So, like, every door we went to, you know, I kind of had a little spill. I was like, okay, well, I got to do it. So I sit there for a second, and then I knock and hope they didn't come to the door. But if they did, you know, I talked to them. But, you know, the Lord gave me the strength to do that, and, I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But I got through the whole week, and at the end of the week, we had a little block party that they were supposed to have, and we got out there and played with the children and stuff, and they had a water park in town that was just open to the public, and so we got out there and we're handing out food and drinks, and they took food to the police department as well, and I was glad we got to be a part of that, and just to go out there and let those kids know, and maybe if we can get the kids there, it'll get their parents there as well. So that was just the whole point of what we were trying to do.
It was scary. That was the week that all the police stuff blew up, and they were some of the very places we had been. They were demonstrating, and we had come very close to flying through Dallas, and that airport was shut down for a couple of days. And that, thank the Lord, he redirected us there. But that's why that morning they made it a point to take food and things to the police department, just to say we love you and we're praying for you. And that meant so much to them, and I'm glad he said it. Robert Jacob, come share.
Well, I'll just echo what they said. It was much different than any other trip we've been on. I mean, some of y'all are probably upset you didn't get to go because you'd like to see Dad walk 46 miles. But it was different, and yeah, like Dad said, it's not really a whole lot visible difference that you make up there. You do talk to people and you put cards in their hands and let them know about the church. But when you get through, the area does look about the same as when you left it. But what reminded me, what kept me, you know, satisfied about our work we did up there was what Robert was talking about when we went to the park that day. We were playing with kids and talking to anybody who wanted to come up, and we were serving food. And I thought, you know, the Christian influence in that part of the country is very faint, non-existent almost. And what they saw was people who proclaimed to love Jesus, who, you know, were upfront about what we were doing, what we were there for, and who were kind to them, and who were doing things, you know, in a community, trying to bring the community together in a sense of just being neighborly and such. And so they saw positive behavior from people who said they love Jesus, which is not what a lot of them hear on the news and such. You know, they hear Christians, they think those are closed-minded people, those are people who we don't want to associate with. But we try to change the way that they think about Christians, and I think that may have been the most important thing we did while we were up there.
It was a good week, and I thank God for the challenges, because it's important to know it doesn't always work out the way you planned it. Mr. Harold Tobin said something this morning. He said, you know, at the end of any mission trip you go on, if you didn't end up getting more than the people that you were there to serve, then you probably ought not go back. He's exactly right. I don't know what people in Seattle and the Dominican got it, but I know my life was changed and greatly blessed. I'm going to turn it over to Zach in just a second. I'm not going to get back up here, so let me just say, if you have any questions, again, if you decide to go pray this thing through, this is not just a Pine Hill Baptist Church thing. Any believer, I'll be glad for them to go. You can give them the handouts. If they have any questions, they can call and ask me. We would love to have any Christian, any believer go that wants to go. They're welcome. We don't go under, we're not promoting Pine Hill Baptist Church. We're promoting Jesus, and we go under His name. So anybody you talk to that says, I'd love to have an opportunity to go, invite them to go, give them that handout. And after January the 1st, if you think you're interested in going, start paying a little bit. That's what we do. That's what we do at DD. Every week, whatever we got, we can pay. We pay, and we keep that credited to your account. And if you start doing it in January instead of May, it's a lot easier to get that fishing trip paid for. So I would encourage you. And if you can't go, and God has blessed you, and you want to help somebody, provide a mission scholarship for somebody. Say, look, I want to sponsor somebody, or I want to sponsor half of somebody's trip. Invariably, if God puts that on your heart, there will be somebody who wants to go and does not have the funds, or God would put it on your heart. So whatever God lays in your heart, and I'm counting on all of you to pray, but it's going to be an exciting time. So if I can answer any questions, if I can do anything to help fill in the gaps of any information, we'll be glad to do that. I know we're not going to be able to hear from everybody that went to New Orleans, but I know Zach's going to give us a little taste of that. New Orleans was different this year, too, than anything we'd experienced before. Zach, you take us through that, and then you close us out.
It was. New Orleans every year is usually something a little different every year. This year was no exception. As we go on these trips, the one thing is stress is flexibility. If you've ever been before, you understand. You have to be flexible. This year, instead of going out to a park or to a church, all of us together, in the morning we kind of split. I took a group, and Brother Chris stayed back with a group. They ran a day camp on campus at New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, and I took a group and we went to Belle Chase, and to a First Baptist Church Belle Chase, and we helped with their Bible school, which was amazing for us. They had tons and tons and tons of kids. They needed help. Every class needed 2 or 3 people, adults, chaperones to help. They had that many kids. It was amazing to be a part of it. And they were grateful. I promise you, they were grateful. Normally we, have rough kids. This year it really wasn't like that. And it's the first time we've been that it wasn't. So it was a shock to us. Then in the afternoons, we still did the homeless ministry one day, and we went out the rest of the time to a church that was going through remodeling. Beautiful old church. And they had inspection while we were there. And I'm going to tell you, I'm proud of everyone that went, because without us, they could not have passed that inspection. And they knew it. The group before us didn't do a whole lot. We came in, we moved stuff, we cleaned, we picked stuff up, we did whatever had to be done. And I'm proud of everybody for doing it. Because starting the week after that, they had to pass inspection, because starting the week after that, they were going to have 150 kids for summer camp. That's 150 kids that's going to be impacted for Christ. They're going to hear the gospel because we helped them pass their inspection. So, it's different. We've never done that before. It was different. It was hot, but everybody hung in there, and we did what needed to get done, and it helped them. So I'm going to invite Robert. He said he wanted to go first. Basically, we're kind of doing the same thing. We're telling you what we've got out of the trip, and what we've got out of it, and why you should go on this trip, and share a memory as well.
All right, well, I was with the group that stayed back at the camp, and we basically just had like a little Bible school type thing for the kids there. And they were there every day of the week for the entire summer, basically. And those kids, we couldn't take pictures with them and post them anywhere because they were kind of under protective custody. Some of their parents didn't know they were there and would not have been okay with them being there. And the other parent had taken them, and so we couldn't put pictures up of them. And so we couldn't show anybody what we've done there. But we had a good week there, and we also go and do homeless ministries, and we give out homeless packets to use them as a tool to share Jesus with them. We're not there. They don't want us to act like we're their Savior, so we don't do that. But we try to share Jesus with them with those care packages. And Mission Lab we only worked with them for 4 days this week instead of 5. And so the 5th day, instead of going home like everybody else did, the group that was at Belle Chase went back again, and the other half of our group went with them. And because they didn't just want to leave them hanging on the last day when they needed the help the most. And so I really appreciated that from Zach. And he got our whole group together, and we went back instead of just, we did what we came to do. Well, he actually let us stay, and we did more than what Mission Lab wanted us to do. But I really appreciated that from Zach too.
All right. I'm going to share it afterwards. I'm letting everybody go and fill in the gaps, but Luke said he wanted to go next.
All right. First off, I just want to say thank you. Because like for the donations or prayers, everything. Every year, like you said, we never know what we're going to do until we get down there. Really, we don't know what to expect. One thing that's the same every year is we get plenty of prayer and support from our church family. So that's the main thing. Like you said, we did the camp. Our half of the group, I was with Robert. We did Camp NOLA Kids in the beginning of the day, and then the second half we came together. We'd do the homeless ministries or whatever was there for the second part of the day. So a lot of that was going up and starting up conversations, whether it be with a homeless person on the waterfront or a kid that was in the camp. I'm not a very outgoing person, so that was tough for me. But this is my 4th or 5th year going, and every year it's getting a little bit easier. So I think it's good for anyone to go, because the first year I went, I wasn't much help at all. But the more you go, the more you get used to going up and starting conversations with them. It's better for me every year I go. So I'd recommend this trip to anyone who's able to go, or like Dad said, anyone who's able to sponsor somebody else, just answering that need. That's all I got.
Next one.
So, well, I was with the Bell Chase group, and the most important thing I got out of that was the kids were so open to the Bible, and they'd come back the next day and say that they read through this chapter and that they learned everything about it. And that was just, I was really grateful for that. And it made me want to learn, open myself to the Bible more. And I encourage everyone to go, because this is my first year and I was so blessed, and it just taught me, to be more thankful, because I saw some kids who, only had one parent or wore the same outfit the entire week, and and it was kind of blessing.
Jacob.
I want to echo what Luke said. We really appreciate y'all donating money and praying for us on these trips. I've been going on these mission trips now for 5 years, and without y'all buying Cokes and pizza kits and donating money for our lunches down there, I wouldn't be able to go. It's not even a question. So we really do appreciate that a lot. This year was a little different than what we were used to. We were staying on. I was with Robert and Luke. We stayed on the campus, and we were with the Camp NOLA Kids, and that was really a blessing. I think we did some good work there. Kind of like similar to what we did in Seattle. We were just being a good influence that was associated with the church and associated with Christians, trying to really raise their image in their head of what a Christian should be and how they should act. And like Ashley said, I was really a little surprised at how I don't know how to phrase it, how eager these kids were to learn. They really wanted to know what we were telling them. A lot of times, even in Bible schools here, the kids, they're really interested in getting the Kool-Aid and the cookies for lunchtime and playing the games outside. But these kids, they would learn their Bible verses, they'd have them memorized, and they would know all the stories that we were telling them about, and they were interested in learning, the stories behind the games we were doing, or maybe the stories behind the snack time, or whatever, whatever we associated with it. And that was really a blessing. All in all, it was a really, really good trip, and I just want to thank y'all again for allowing us the opportunity to go and do that. Thank you.
I encourage anybody to go. I've watched, especially these guys, grow up going. From Luke being nervous to now he goes. I mean, it does get easier. I've watched Robert, my first year, he was my enforcer. Had some terrible kids, and he was the mean one. I let him be the mean one. I was the nice one. I was the good cop. He was the bad cop. But I'm telling you, I thought about it this year when we were in Dominican, seeing the kids jump all over him and love on him, and he's just loving back. You know, New Orleans, my first year, that wouldn't happen. Now, I mean, you want to see what's going on, go. That's the only way. I wanted to share with you because Sarah went, Brittany went, but we had some folks from Calvary Baptist Church that went as well out of Linden. And they were amazing folks. Mr. Frank and Julia McGilberry, their daughter Melanie, then Logan Etheridge and his brother Alex went, and Hunter Moore went. Hunter knew he couldn't come tonight, but he did tell me he wanted to thank everybody for allowing him to go. And it's been amazing to see his change, his willingness to do whatever it takes. I mean, I get to, out of this trip, I get the joy of watching these kids every year, or young adults, I should say, because that's what they are, young men and women, grow from kids to young men and women. But they were, those from Calvary were amazing. They had a lot of stuff going on. Logan moved to college, Melanie moved to college. So we are open to other people going, as Brother Chris said. But the one thing God has shown me this year through these trips, He's really spoke, is the sacrifice. This is about sacrifice. We're called to sacrifice for Christ. Why? Because Christ sacrificed Himself for us. We sang this morning, Christ came down from His throne in heaven. He died on the cross for us. He paid the ultimate sacrifice. You know, just be honest, as American Christians, what have we sacrificed? You know, time's coming, I think, where we're going to sacrifice more, but it's nothing. You know, but you go on these trips, it is somewhat of a sacrifice. It's money, it's time, and it's time away from your family. You know, but I'm going to tell you, it's worth it. God calls us to sacrifice. He calls us to sacrifice. It's a blessing to sacrifice. You know, Jesus called the disciples. They dropped everything they were doing and followed Him. You know, time from family, their jobs, everything, and they followed Christ. You know, and that's the same things for us. That's what we're called to do, is sacrifice. So that's something that God's really shown and worked in my heart this year, is the sacrifice it does take. You don't blame me. My wife, I'm not here now because my child was acting like her, by the way. So, and that comes from Judy. Miss Judy will tell you. She acts like Carmen. So, not sweet angel like me. But it's a sacrifice, you know. People here sacrifice just like we sacrifice. And that's what I want to get across to you, is be willing to sacrifice. You know, if it's all you can do is donate, God puts that on your heart, donate. If He's calling you to go, go. You know, we can't, to me, being a sacrifice does away with lame reasons or excuses, I would say, of why we can't go. Because it is a sacrifice, and that's what we're called to do. It's our worship sacrifice. So I just wanted to mention that, mention those that couldn't be here. Again, we thank you for the prayer. We feel it. Brother Chris said these trips have been smooth sailing this year. I've been on several trips, been trips out of the country. Planes on time, no problems. I mean, Dominican, we even got a straight flight there and back. You know, so just easy going. No bags were lost. I mean, everything was just smooth sailing. So, we thank you for that. We thank you for the donations that you blessed us with to be able to go. So, Anybody else have anything? If not, I'm going to close us in prayer. And again, we thank you all so much. So if you will, at this bow with me. Heavenly Father, we just come to you now thanking you, humbled at your love for us, Lord, that you would send your Son from his throne in heaven to this sinful world to die on that cross. We thank you for that. We thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy that you show on us there and every day. I thank you for this church and this congregation, Lord. People who love you, people who are willing to support and donate to help us go, Lord. I pray that you continue to move in our church, Lord. And not that we can stand up here and brag, but that we can come back and we share that we took the gospel. We took your word. We showed people your love. Lord, that's what it's about. It's about you. It's what Christ did on the cross. It's not about us. We thank you for that. May we glorify you as we leave this building tonight, Lord, as we go out. May we be your hands and feet in our community, Lord. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.